So for your project here, you're going to get more options to decide what you want to make. But a lot of times I have students picking really simple ideas because they're afraid, I think is the deal, is why they don't pick something more challenging to make. They just aren't quite sure how to go about building it. So this is kind of an exercise to help you learn one more technique besides building things with slabs and pinching so that you can make something cool. You got a chunk of clay. You're going to need it in 3 pieces, 2 that are bigger and the same size and 1 that's pretty small. So with this chunk, I'm just going to take off part of the corners right here, maybe just a little more. You maybe want it to be about the size of a ping pong ball. All right, and then you've got the rest of your clay. I'm going to divide that in half to make them as roughly equal as I can without, you know, getting out a balance scale and trying to weigh it. And anyway, that's pretty close to the same size. I'm going to take these and make them into spheres. And it takes a minute to get them shaped nice and smooth. My hands have done this a fair amount of times, and so they kind of just know what part's sticking out to try and make it round. It's not that I'm just hitting it at random, it's I kind of am paying attention to what part's sticking out and then patting that side. If you got wrinkles, you want to get rid of those. Do that by smoothing it over. If you've had me for other classes, sometimes I call this Pet the Mouse. It's not a fast process, but it does pretty well if you have a little patience. All right, that one's pretty smooth and pretty round, so I'm happy with that. Set this one aside, go ahead and do the same thing here. Again, I'm not just randomly hitting it, I'm finding spots and like that part sticking out there. I'm actually consciously paying attention to where I'm smushing this clay. If you just hit it at random, it's not going to go round. It just looks like that I'm hitting it at random because I'm used to doing it quickly. All right, so it's pretty round. Again, there are a few kind of wrinkles in there, so I'm going to smooth those over. Wrinkles really never go away on their own. They only grow on their own. That doesn't seem fair, but that's the way it is. At any rate, petting the mouse, smoothing over those wrinkles. All right, so you have 2 nice spheres. You're going to take these and you're going to make each of them into a pinch pot that's like not flat on the bottom, rounded like a coconut shell cut in half. So just grab one, start it with my thumb. You want to make these pinch pots as close to about the same size and shape as you can. And when you do this, you don't want to make it too thin. If you make it too thin, you're going to cause problems for yourself. So this is like the shape of about a half a coconut shell. All right? About as thick as a grown-up person's finger. If you have skinny little hands, you're going to make yours a little bit thicker than your finger, okay? So there's one. Do the other one. If yours takes longer than this, that's okay. I've had a fair amount of practice. I'm sure you wanted to hear me sing that. Not too worried if it has a little bit of fingerprints on this outside. Again, I'm trying to get these two to be about the same. It looks like this one's a little bit larger, So the solution for that is to pinch this one slightly more. See how they do now. That's pretty close. All right. Yes, you've probably gotten the idea that we are going to put these two together. Just like any time when you join things with clay, you don't just smush them together and say, oh yeah, I think that'll stay. It won't stay. It won't. Well, sometimes it might at random, but you just got lucky then. Don't think if it's a common thing like you got some sort of magic touch. Instead, we need to score and slip it. I'm grabbing scoring and slipping materials. I have my slip here in this yogurt container. Slip is clay and water mixed together until it's a nice, lovely kind of pudding texture. People always like, can you eat it? Can you eat it? Sure, if it means that much to you, go for it. It's not gonna hurt you, but it would probably give you constipation. Just saying. It's not toxic, it's just clay, so why would you? Anyway, there's slip. This I call the Ninja Kitten. If you've had me for other classes, you know why. But basically it does scoring, which is making little cut marks really fast. You're gonna score on both surfaces where you're going to join. So that piece is now scored right on that edge. Can you see it? Look at it. Look at it. It's scored. I didn't score it out here. It didn't need scoring there. Just right there. Okie dokie. Now it's time to score this side. I try to make the little score marks go both directions, like crisscross one another. I've had good luck with that technique. There you go. So we've got scoring on both of these. Now it's time to put some slip on. And I don't care if you want to use your finger or if you want to use the fettling knife, which is sort of like a butter knife. I think I'm going to use my finger because it's quicker. There you go. Aren't you glad I didn't use the fettling knife? That took long enough with just my finger. Gracious. All right. So now I've got these two. I'm going to put them together. And it's going to trap air in there. And that's what you want. You want some air trapped in there. Squishing it, nicely pressed. This join right here is not very strong yet. We're going to reinforce that, and that's what this piece of clay is for. You could roll it, but I would rather that you just kind of squished it into a snake-ish type shape. If you roll it on the canvas, the canvas is very dry, and it will pull the moisture out of the clay, and then this clay will get kind of too dry to work well, I guess. You're going to set that right over the top of that seam. Oh wow, perfect fit. That doesn't happen every time. And then you're going to just, this takes a minute. You're going to start smushing it one side and then the other and then one side. I'll set it down here so I can use both hands. It'll be faster that way. Be careful when you're doing this that you don't poke your finger through the side of your clay pinch pot, because that will let the air out and then the whole thing will collapse. You're probably noticing by now that there's air pressure in here and you can feel it move the clay when you press on one side of the object, one side of the piece. Again, I'm trying to make sure all that air stays in there, and I'm trying to get a nice smooth edge as best I can. This takes a little while. Again, I'm kind of quicker than some. Maybe you're quicker than me, I don't know. But if it takes a little while, don't get upset. It just is a thing that takes a while sometimes. All right, so now I have this shape. I can leave it kind of bumpy and odd shape like this if I want, or I could make this a really nice sphere. If I want to make this a really nice sphere, I can roll it on this canvas. Ding, 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 ding. Bells should be going off, whistles. You just said, Mr. that you can't roll your clay on the canvas because it makes it dry. You're right. Good thinking. I'm glad you noticed that. So I'm going to take my trusty squirt bottle. I'm not going to soak the canvas. That would make this too sticky and it would fall apart. But I'm going to spritz it a little bit so that it's not going to pull all my moisture out of this clay. Then I'm going to roll it all different directions. I'm not just going to roll it back and forth. That will make it not round. I'm going to go in all sorts of like big circular motions. It takes a little bit to do this. Do, 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 do. Boy, it's getting nice. It's all smooth. It's just not quite spherical yet. Again, I'm not just doing this at random. I'm kind of paying attention to where I'm needing to roll it so it can get more spherical. There, that's pretty good. So I have a nice round shape. And it's hollow. That's good, because if this was a solid chunk of clay and I tried to fire it, you know what would happen? It would explode because it's too thick. But this isn't too thick now, it's hollow inside. Of course, before I fire it, I would need to make an opening so that the air that's inside that would be expanding in the heat of the kiln has a way to get out. But I wouldn't puncture it with a hole just yet, because the air pressure is what's keeping this a nice round shape. Later, after this firms up a little bit, if it dries out just a little, not all the way, because then it might crack when you poke the hole in it, but after the clay gets a little bit stronger from drying out just a bit, then you could poke the hole in and it wouldn't need that air pressure to keep it round. And you might be thinking, oh, big deal, Ms. Riemersma, you've got a round piece of clay, whatever. But you could make cool things with this. This could be the body of a bear, and you could make a head for it. Or it could be like part of an elephant. That could be the body of the elephant, and you can make a head here, another pinch pot, join it on, you know, and some legs, and a little tail back here, or a dinosaur, or I don't know. It could be lots of things. Don't just say, oh yeah, I've got a sphere, I'm going to make a basketball for my project. That's really boring. Shh, shh. Don't do that. At any rate, if you're going to keep this and use it for part of your project, I would go ahead and wrap it up just like you learned how to do before. These paper towels that are here are pretty well moist, so I'm not going to re-spritz them. As long as I keep this moist, I can join other things to it. Now, caution, don't put too much water on these paper towels because it will weaken this clay, and when it weakens, then it'll start to squish out, and then the air will get out and it'll turn into a flat pancake, and it won't be as cool as a hollow round sphere. Just saying. That's it for me for now. You know how to wrap these up with the double bagging method. You're good to go.